Reflect on these two images of black swans and consider the contrast between good and evil. Take a moment to reflect and then use the prayer or write your own prayer. Welcome to our fourth session. We move to chapter 15 of Luke's Gospel, and we look at one of his parables that are unique to the Gospel. It's sometimes called the prodigal son, it's sometimes called the merciful father, it's sometimes called the son, the father and the two sons. The story speaks of the boundless mercy and the understanding of God. Known as the prodigal son, it doesn't really do justice to the extravagant love of the father, the self-posturing of the elder son, and the journey from folly to wisdom of the younger son. The parable is told by way of reply to the scribes and the Pharisees who are complaining about Jesus' lax attitude to sinners. The story is told of a father who has two sons and loses both of them, one to a far country, the other is lost in the wilderness of his own hostility. One leaves home in the fond hope that he will find happiness in the experience of the unfamiliar. The other stays home, but could be in a foreign land. So it's a family, a human family, that is very mixed, in which tenderness, selfishness, and hostility all vie with each other for possession. By the end of the story, tenderness will have won over selfishness, but it's unclear whether hostility will still stay out in the cold. The younger son has apparently gone on a fruitless journey, and so he ends up where he started. But the geography of the starting point is the same. If the geography of the starting point is the same, the traveller is different. He is a man now of new insight. The elder son stays home, but he's not a man of new insight. He does not welcome his brother, and he does not rejoice with his father. Self-righteousness still reigns in his life. The younger son yearns for a better and different life, and finds that his promised land is barren. His experience of failure, however, is a kairos moment. He remembers home and he makes the journey of return. And so for the younger son, there is that progressive psychological movement. He's dissatisfied with home and he has an urge to travel. He withdraws from home and he discovers hopelessness in the situation that he finds himself in the far distant country. That experience of failure helps him to remember home, and he anticipates a better future. And so he makes the journey home, where he is welcomed and where he is celebrated and they rejoice. So one of the key points of the parable is that resurrection is only possible after death. Being found is only possible after being lost. Usually in that context, when an estate is being broken up, the elder son receives 2/3 of the father's estate and the younger son 1/3. And the notion is that the elder son is then responsible for the father and the wider family. There is, in the context of the parable, double disgrace because the younger son accepts employment from a Gentile and he finds himself in the field tending the swine. However, the younger son comes to himself, his memory saves him and allows him to imagine a better future. He remembers his father's generosity, The father's attitude is totally unexpected when he returns home. In the East, it is regarded as undignified for an old man to run. He is not weighed down. He is free. He runs towards his younger son. His instinct is for forgiveness and acceptance. And the speech that the younger son has rehearsed is not needed. The father is telling the servants to bring the best robe. The best robe is a symbol of status. To give him a ring, the symbol of authority. To give him sandals. Sandals were only worn by free men. And to fatten the calf is to bring grace to the table. There has been a resurrection. The cry goes out to make merry. However, the elder son, after a day's work, comes back to the homestead. He calls a servant and he asks what is happening. The servant gives an unvarnished account of what has happened, and the elder brother reacts with anger. Unlike the father, he doesn't have the generous instinct that allows him to move his anger. His anger immobilizes him. He is not the one who is far from home. He is the one who is separated. And so the father simply repeats that it's fitting to make merry because your brother who was dead and is alive, he was lost and he was found. And as the parable ends, we don't know, did the father go back to the party and the merrymaking? Did the brother change his mind and go inside? Jesus doesn't say. We are left at the end of the parable not knowing.